Welcome to this JIS Special on education, where we'll be dealing with issues having to do with back to school preparations, parent contributions, parental involvement in education, issues to do with educational policy, among other things. I'm Ian Boyne. We have a distinguished group of panelists headed by Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Senator the Honorable Roel Reid, Chief Education Officer in the ministry, in that ministry, Dr. Grace McLean, President of the National Parent Teachers Association, Everton Hanam, Principal of the Spanish Town High School, Bentley Brown, and the immediate past President of Jonathan Grant High School, Rosemary Headley Smith. You're in for a most interesting discussion on the issues that you want answers to. But before that, we want to see how Jamaicans have been preparing for back to school.
It's a little bit hectic, you know, back to school, you have to prepare for them. You understand me? So the cost for the things are a little bit up. Could be a little bit more down. Understand me? But we're getting there.
Do my preparation like from in April of this year, so it's not that heavy or strain on me at this moment.
Books are expensive, and the cost of it very high. Yes, but you have to try our best and see what you can do for the children's future.
Back to school is hard, and when you go into the bookstore, the book is so high.
I already prepared. I don't wait till the last time for rush it like everybody are rushing now. Because what people does is wait till the last time everybody you go downtown full, books sold out and things. So you have to plan ahead of time.
Welcome back. That's how Jamaicans are preparing. How is the government preparing for back to school? We have the Minister with responsibility for education here. Minister, the government's own preparation for back to school. How will children and parents face that first school day in September?
Well, Ian, thanks for having me, and certainly greetings to your listeners. The government, along with the team we have at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, has been preparing for some time for the start of the new academic year. And we have had a number of preparatory meetings with a number of our team leaders to look at different aspects of what needs to happen in terms of what we're doing in terms of curriculum changes, the national standards curriculum that we have enunciated. The infrastructure program, as you know, we have spoken quite a bit on a number of initiatives we are implementing from secondary, primary, at the early childhood levels, including some aspect of the tertiary level. We have, and I'm sure you're going to be speaking to that in terms of how do we ensure that schools have adequate resources to prepare themselves so they can do their routine maintenance and have the plan ready for the students for the beginning of the new school year. The matter of school furniture is one that readily comes to mind, and the team is on task to facilitate some of our schools that have the resources to do their own procurement and repairs that they, particularly at the secondary level, that they will be able to do.
You're expecting some shortfall in that area?
No,
some challenge?
No, I think we have anticipated it, and as I'm saying that, again, because we were able to provide, for example, the secondary system, a lot of the resources that normally the government would have provided in the middle of August. The secondary schools got those resources, $1.4 billion for the first time in history, very early, as early as the middle of June. So from all accounts, when we have done our checks, high schools have been well prepared this year than they've ever been before in terms of back to school. The rental books and all the other books that are required at the primary level, those have been procured. Those are going to be delivered starting next week as per schedule. So the issue of personnel, appointment of principals and other senior staff, those have been taking place in earnest. We had a little delayed because of the change over in terms of the Teachers Service Commission, but additional meetings were held, and we have processed many of those appointments to have the new principals in place for September. We are ready as we can be to face the new school year.
Chief Education Officer, anything to add to that?
Well, as our minister has indicated, sir, we are in an advanced stage of readiness, and we are very confident that we will be off to a very good start. This year is an extraordinary year for the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information by virtue of the fact that we are rolling out the new National Standards Curriculum. And so as early as the first week in August, we have been having training on the curriculum-related areas right across the island. Over 12,000 of our teachers have been trained, so you can understand that that is really a huge undertaking. Now, it's very critical because the curriculum will be rolled out in grades 1, 4, 7, 8, and 9. And the curriculum that is being rolled out will have implications for the assessments that will come in another 2 to 3 years. And so we had to make sure that we spend as much time as possible preparing the teachers. And of course, the training, the coaching, and the mentoring will also continue in September. In addition to that, there is now intensive focus on the provision of resources to support the curriculum, as well as to ensure that the teachers are doing their unit plans in accordance with the curriculum so that there will be no hiccups as it relates to commencing that process. As a result of this, our regional or back-to-school conferences that we would have had in July, we had to delay them, and so they are currently being held. One was held last week. We'll be having 3 next week, and 2 will actually be in September. But outside of this, we have sent out all the information in terms of guidelines. We have sent out information regarding the guidelines to parents re the procurement of additional supplementary books. We have done our survey in collaboration with the Consumer Affairs Commission in terms of the prices of books. And of course, we would have seen that there is at least a 4% increase in the prices, but we are also confident that we have adequate books available. There were some concerns about books at the secondary level, yes, and we have been advised by the Book Association that those have now been resolved, and so we do not expect that there will be any shortages. Our furniture distribution will continue into September, and that is just to ensure that we are also able to accommodate those students who turn up every year, register on September morning that the schools would not have accounted for. So we are taking that into consideration. We are also working very closely with the Jamaica Police Constabulary Force to ensure that those areas, hotspots as we call them, that may be potential challenges, that we engage the communities and we watch these areas very closely to ensure that there are no roadblocks and that our students are not disadvantaged in any way. So far, sir, I think we are off to an excellent start, and we are not anticipating any challenges, but if they do come, we will be prepared.
You're prepared for them. You would notice that in the Vox Pop, there was a lot of references to school book prices and so on. So that's a major issue of concern for parents. Tell me, at the secondary level, the book rental scheme covers only a small number of the books, right? At the primary level, there's a total sort of coverage for.
Well, the primary thing, and using the term core, all the key resources that are needed at primary are provided free of cost by the government. At the high school, the book rental scheme covers all subjects except literature, which, by the way, something I need to look at next year. I think it's probably your subject area. Yeah. That the only subject that is not covered are literature books. But even listening to the Vox Pop, I think we not certain, and I'm picking up that it's not just the textbook that they may be referring to, but you're talking about notebooks,
Yes, and Atlas. And
Atlas, you know, those additional things. So all of these things do cost. Simple thing like geometry sets, rulers, pens, you know, then and so on. Those costs actually adds up. So when you talk about preparing for school, the government, by the way, doesn't provide for these these supplies. So what we certainly need to communicate to the public, and I think principals themselves need to be aware that it really takes a lot of money to prepare each child for back to school. And so when the government puts in place programs that reduce the costs that parents are required to bear, schools ought not to go out of their ways to try and now create a new condition that further burdens the parents.
We're going to go into that in the other segment. But back to this matter of the secondary school, and you were saying that all the areas are covered aside from literature. One parent was telling me that her child who is entering secondary school was required to have 21 books, and only 6 of those books were covered by the book rental system.
21 what kind of books?
Well,
we need evidence. That's why I'm saying we have to be very careful of these wild allegations.
What kind of?
Because I'm saying, you know, granted, Dr. Mack, some schools may decide to do subjects of which we're not aware of. Right. So if it is that you decide to do robotics or animation as a subject, for example, or let's say you're doing Mandarin as a subject for the whole, or even Latin, then I don't think we would have those resources on the ground. And this is sometimes part of the problem that I think we as administrators face, because while you don't want to hamstrung schools, we have to have some sort of discussion in terms of core, because if every school decides to innovate and do new and different things, there's a cost involved, and we have to have some guidance, and this is where sometimes there's a pushback, because the ministry is about policy. And we have to protect the interests of all our people.
Absolutely.
So I'll be very curious about that report about 21 texts that are required.
And only 6.
But if I may interject, there are some unusual cases. For instance, I know of a case where a parent complained that the book rental room did not have sufficient supply. It would appear that she applied for the books late. The supplies run short. Not because of the school's fault. There are times when persons just do not return the books. And they may be asked to pay for the damaged or lost books, and they don't. So the schools could run short, and parents and children could be asked to supply those books.
Mr. Adam, I want to bring you in at this point. What is your word to parents? What are some of the things that they need to do to prepare the children for school, aside from buying books and uniforms and so on?
I think back to school this year is against many backgrounds. One is the threat of ongoing health threat, ZIGV. Hurricane, we're in hurricane season still. And so therefore, in addition to the normal back to school preparation, we need to be fully aware and keep on high alert those preparations that might encounter at schools that will contribute to the increase of any of those diseases that we have at this time. So therefore, parents must be fully aware on the announcements that have been provided, in this case by the Ministry of Health. Because if you're not healthy, you don't need those books, you need other treatments. So we want to make sure that you have healthy children going back to school. That is one that we want to ensure. The question of the books, I recall we were on a textbook committee that was established that spoke specifically to a core set of books. And if as a parent you want to go outside that, and I would say use colloquially top up there, then you can top up by purchasing those extra books. There are core sets of books. And Dr. Mack was part of that team that ensured that those books would be provided for, and you work with those core sets.
So the core books will be provided for under the book rental system.
A list was provided, we discussed it. It was agreed to by parents and principals, and we were on that committee, so that would have been distributed. Therefore, the question of how you purchase and gauge the purchase of your books. If you're going to use a book in April of next semester, please don't purchase the book now. Although parents will tell you that is when they get a little money, so they have to buy it and put it down. So there are different variants that some of them use to purchase. But the idea is really to purchase what you need now. Again, when we're in school, there are books that could have been hand-me-down, come straight down to your system. But now the system has changed so much that a number of books are textbook oriented and you write in 5 lines. You use those texts, they are workbooks, and so you can hand them down. But there are still some core books that you can hand down. The student companion, which continues to be revised, the junior revised English, and those books that are continuously revised that you can still hand down. And of course, the book exchange. Many schools would have started a program. PTAs, book exchange. You go, you hand in a book, and you get a book based upon what year your child or children is leaving from or going into. And so that is why we ask parents to take extra care, especially those books that are not written into, take extra care in procuring them so that you can pass them on to somebody else in another school through whatever book program that is going to be established. And of course, Dr. McCood I've already spoken about the security arrangement. You need to extremely alert. Transportation is one concern that we want to see addressed, because you would have noticed that leading up to the holidays, a number of accidents occurred in some locations where children were involved, and we're going to ask parents to be extremely circumspect in the transportation that they send their children into. It's not just, no, my taxi man come from the town and want to eat a food, but you have to be extremely careful that sometimes the tires of the car are not as smooth as our Florida, and you know, to be careful.
Good advice. I want to break at this point. We have just the right panel to deal with the issues that you want answers to. And when we come back, we're going to deal with the controversial issue of parent contributions, what used to be called the auxiliary fees. We have the Minister of Education here, the Chief Education Officer, and other key stakeholders. This is a JIS Special Forum on Education.
The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is committed to ensuring that every Jamaican child has the best learning environment to thrive and needs your cooperation to make the education system work successfully.
What are the school's voluntary contributions for?
Co-curricular and sports activities and school development.
What amount are parents to contribute?
Your contributions are voluntary and the amount depends on the type of programs being offered by the school.
If my child is being denied access to school, can I complain to the ministry?
Yes. You can call or visit any of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information's 6 regional offices or send an email to complaints@moey.gov.jm.
What support is there for PATH students?
PATH students are not expected to make contributions and are to be provided with 5 days free lunch as of this year.
Parents and guardians, do continue to make your voluntary financial contributions to your children's school. The institutions need your assistance for their school development and sporting activities. Remember, every child can learn. Every child must learn.
A distinguished panel on this JIS Education Forum dealing with the issues that you want answers to. We have the Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Senator Honorable Ruel Reid, Chief Education Officer, Dr. Grace McLean, President of the National Parent Teachers Association, Everton Hanam, Principal of Spanish Town High School, Ventley Brown, and immediate past PTA President of the Jonathan Grant High School, Rosemary Headley Smith. And now we are going to touch the controversial matter of auxiliary fees, parent contributions. All the answers that you have wanted on this issue. But first, we hear what the people have to say.
When I feel good, carry some money, can buy something towards the children, them can sponsor them, make up buy something back to school, buy a book, pencil, and them something there.
I feel good, but me not sure.
Well, it's a good policy. At least more kids will get to go to school.
What I think he should have done is put a cost to it, in the sense of a $5,000 or a $6,000, so that we kind of help to offset like the little stuff that the principal have to cover.
It seems to me that it's a little better than before. I think it will work if we as parents are dedicated enough to do that.
Well, I'm just saying let's hope it works.
Let's hope it works. That is certainly the desire of Jamaicans. I think that what that person said echoes both the desire and the anxiety that people have over this issue of non-mandatory auxiliary fees. Well, we have the panel to discuss this issue and to give you the answers. Minister, I have found among parents for whom this abolition of the fees should be of benefit. I have found that even though this is in their benefit, or is supposed to be, or is projected as being in their benefit, that they have anxiety over it. They are seriously concerned as to whether the schools will be underfunded as a result of the good intention of the government. But they feel that, you know, the road to hell is paved with many good intentions. What assurance would you give, Minister, that if the schools don't collect these fees, the children will not get a substandard education? Because the people don't want their children to get a substandard education under the guise of free education.
Well, I'm happy to be here to answer all the questions and the concerns. And I want to assure parents that the design of the education system is such that there is no fear in terms of any impairment of quality. I want us to be very clear that the key part of the education system, which are the provision of teachers, are funded by the government. And people receive their emoluments on a regular basis, like persons from the civil service. What we have articulated in the policy is increasing the government's allocation for the operational part of school, which is paying utilities and resourcing labs and so on.
That has been increased?
That has been increased. We have moved the allocation overall for the sector from 2.6 billion to 5.3 billion.
In this financial year?
In this financial year. The minimum per capita for each school, and I'm saying is minimum because many other schools are getting more above the 19,000 per capita, but as a benchmark, every school will receive a minimum of $19,000 per capita for operations alone, which is separate from maintenance, from construction projects, from some of them we're about 30 schools we're going to do solar so they can come off the grid. But there's ICT support, and importantly, where the schools were understaffed and had to rely on parents to make contributions to pay those staff, we have now absorbed in our budget those costs. So those schools have gotten additional amounts to cover that. We have also moved into sixth form, where many schools hire part-time teachers for the sixth form program. We are funding that as well. And we have even allowed schools that have sixth form to continue to charge sixth form fees. So schools also have that stream of revenue. But I go further. Not only have we paid our commitment much earlier, but the cash flow that will take place will indeed insulate schools from having any major cash flow problem, because we not only pay the first tranche in June, but another tranche will be paid in September, second week of September, and we have one targeted for December, although we're likely to pay that earlier. And then normally schools have only had their last payment sometime March and so on, or April. So we are going to pay another tranche in April of next year, and then the new school year funding will start again from June next year, and so on. So in terms of cash flow, the average school is in a much better position. And remember, I mean, not all schools are the same, yes, and I don't know some of them, but when we did the research, we found 88% of our schools were having contributions just around $5,000. So when you look at what we have provided for schools, we could say safely 88% of those schools are in a much stronger position financially.
88%?
Yes, than have ever been before. Now, the traditional schools, I mean, they are traditional schools, and some of them have a higher budget by virtue of some
And you should know about those
Yes,
schools.
I'm quite familiar.
Yes.
And we've been working with those, and what we have said is that the policy of the government is that while we are not saying that parents can't make contributions, then those are non-mandatory. And for those schools also, we have made sure we have gone out of our way to ensure that those additional operating costs that they have established over time. Our budgeting support covers that.
Well, that's important,
yes.
Minister. You are saying that you have made provision for that?
Yes, we have made provision.
Where their budget is under strain.
Yes.
So a parent doesn't have to fear
not
that
at all.
because of your 19,000, which is not adequate.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Their budgetary issues are going to be dealt with.
Their budgetary issues are going to be dealt with for all the core service. And when you ask a question about quality educational environment and instruction, and we are making it very clear that every school has been targeted to ensure that they can deliver quality education. Now, the value added, which I want it to be clear, and we have ads running, even through the JIS, that we're not opposed to co-curricular.
Yes.
We're not opposed to competitive sports, and we revel and celebrate with our Olympians and the great Usain Bolt. And of course, he passed through the school system. But the government is not there yet to fund entirely that segment. So what we have said is that in our analysis, a large part of what parents are now asked to contribute is really towards co-curricular and competitive sport. So therefore, we're saying to school, we can't support a policy that have a mandatory requirement for parents to contribute for those areas, as likable as they are. So I want the parents to understand that what we're saying largely, the contributions that you are asked to make are for those areas, and there's no impairment for the quality educational service that the school ought to deliver.
You're saying also, Minister, that for any particular school which has a challenge, a unique challenge, that school can make representations to the ministry.
Absolutely.
And the ministry can deal with the case.
Yeah, but that's what we do all the time.
So it's not a matter that you have a one-size-fits-all. And
yes.
they have to follow that.
Yes.
And this is edict.
Right.
If there's a special case, you can deal with that.
Absolutely.
So there should be no excuse in terms of children having to undergo a substandard education because of government policy.
No, absolutely not. And by the way, that ought to have been the case, because although it has been dealt with in the breach more or less, that the ministry is aware that every school is unique, different in size and operating costs.
Ministry is cognizant of that.
Very much cognizant of that. And what ought to have been happening is that each year, budgets ought to have been submitted to the ministry for approval. And indeed, let us be also very clear that the law says that any charges or requests for financing for schools ought to be approved by the minister. So we can't have...
the law says that?
That's what the Education Act provides. So what has been happening, and where we have some issues, is that schools have literally been operating in breach of those guidelines. And what we're trying to move now with a new committee we are developing to look at school budget and the areas that are going to be approved for expenditure. Right? Because when we look at school operation, there are areas of expenditure that we'll have to standardize so that you don't have school burdening parents for areas of expenses that the ministry itself has not approved. Now, if the PTA wants to take that on and raise funds to fund some areas, we don't have a problem with that. But remember now, we have to have policies that are geared to ensure that no parent is going to be worse off, that the children's interests are protected. And that is what the government is seeking to do. We are not underfunding school, but we are managing a way that delivers quality education, ensure that there is no child that is denied access to education, right, while still allowing for the goodwill of our parents and our stakeholders to continue to contribute for the overall and further development of that particular school or general education sector.
Chief Education Officer, your contribution on this matter.
So I just want to emphasize that outside of the per capita amount, which is what schools have been accustomed to getting year after year, we are providing increased amounts in other areas that will benefit the school.
Tell us about
Minister, for example, spoke about part-time teachers or temporary teachers. This is an area that schools have complained about over the years because they have unique programs. We are allocating almost 300 million this year that they will now be able to use to engage teachers on a temporary basis, on a part-time basis, depending on their need. Now, this information actually came in on the revised budgets that the schools were asked to submit in June. So at the end of June, we reviewed the budgets that they sent in. We looked at the areas that spoke to additional resources, and the ministry took steps to provide the additional resources. So equipment for labs, for their science labs,
Yes.
equipment for their technical and vocational areas. All of those areas we are now actively procuring in some cases and are providing funds to the school. Some would have gotten the funds already, so they are able to take care of these areas.
Pardon me, so parents need not worry that because the auxiliary fees are abolished, that the labs are now going to be in a state of disrepair.
Exactly.
They're in a better position than ever been before.
And the window is open for a school that may have issues during the school year to say to their ministry that this is a challenge that we are having. Produce your income and expenditure statement, and we, as we have said and are committed to do, we will provide the additional support that is required. So there are really no hindrances at this time that our parents need to be fearful of, because we have gone above and beyond to make sure that we reorganize the resources internally to ensure that schools have enough funds to be able to take care of the operational costs to ensure quality education is provided for our children.
I just want to, before you bring in the PTA, National PTA President, and segue to him as well, because I want the parents also to understand that we want to develop the partnership. So it's not that we are at war with our principals and our boards, but we are serving a key stakeholders, our parents, and they have their children as their interest within the schools. We are saying to the parents equally, they must be an effective partner. They sit on the school board, they must be aware of the school's financing and the finances. They need to know the budget and what are the requirements. So if parents are very involved in the life of the school, then they will have an issue, because they will know what are the strategies, they will know what are the program and the area in which they may need to contribute. So we are asking the parents to get involved in what's happening in your school. And so when the government articulates a policy, you can better appreciate what is it that the government is trying to do for you.
We have some other critical issues to get to. We have the President of the National Parent Teachers Association, as well as another parent and immediate past president of the PTA of Jonathan Grant, and principal of the Spanish Town High School. We want to hear from them. Already significant pieces of information have come from this discussion. We take a break, but we'll be right back.
We have championed e-learning in Jamaica, provided state-of-the-art technology in over 200 educational institutions, developed materials for CSEC, piloted the Tablets in Schools project in 38 schools, including infant and primary, and trained thousands of teachers in technology integration. We are e-Learning Jamaica Company Limited, ELJAM, an agency of the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology. Visit our website, www.elearnja.org.
Welcome back to this JIS Special Forum on Education. And I now want to throw to you, Ventley Brown, Principal of Spanish Town High School. If, as the Minister and the Chief Education Officer have explained this policy of non-mandatory auxiliary fees is so much in the interest of schools, if non-traditional schools like yours were not getting the contributions anyway, we're way below what you were required, and you are getting much more now, there should be loud choruses of support for this policy. How come it seems that the policy is under fire from principals? What are we missing? Give me your views on this. The policy itself, what's your take?
Well, from Spanish Town High School, I really don't speak from a chorus background.
Yes.
And I think...
How many students are there?
2,400.
2,400?
We have 111 teachers.
That's a lot.
And it's a shift school. So you could really just imagine how we manage throughout the day. The policy is a welcome change for Spanish Town High School.
Welcome change?
Welcome change. It basically creates a 50% increase in our revenue from the Ministry of Education. We charge, well, we used to charge $2,000 for auxiliary fee.
Just
$2,000.
No.
And the compliance rate was, I don't want to be,
No,
less than 1%.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not exaggerating.
Less than 1%? And
I can go a little further. And now we charge, the overall fee that we charge now is $6,500 for new students, $1,000 for PTA.
Yeah.
And since Monday of this week, I had to sign letters giving parents time to pay the $6,500. Parents even asked for time as far as maybe January 2017. So for a school like Spanish Town High School with a low compliance rate in terms of collection of fees, it is a welcome change.
Welcome change.
Very welcome change. Just last week alone, we received $5 million from the Ministry of Education towards the construction of 2 new classrooms. It's a far way ahead. We need maybe about 18 more to come off shift, but it's a welcome change.
Next year, you get the rest.
Yes, I'm currently in dialogue with TVET Rationalization. They have provided $2.5 million towards my science lab for equipment. We'll be getting $1.5 million towards the auto mechanic department and $1 million towards home ec. This is a situation that we could not have managed ourselves, just collecting the fees. Right now, we are far in advance in terms of preparing for back to school. We have a very good textbook structure in the school. So the chairs, the benches, the desks, all of those are repaired at school. We just purchase the material. And having received that first tranche payment in June, it placed us in a better position to purchase enough of what we need for September. So we have maybe about 3 days left to prepare for school. And those 3 days basically includes meeting with the senior staff and the general staff, nothing to do with the general maintenance of the plan. So I would want to see this policy become a policy for life in a sense, because I accept that Spanish Town High School is a non-traditional high school. Yes. We are in one of the hardest communities. It's true. Where we sit right on Young Street in the center of Spanish Town. The socioeconomic standards in terms of parents and the students are very, very hard. So for parents to be coming to ask for time, extra time to pay $6,500, you just can imagine how challenging it is for them. It is not our position to turn it back either. So we have to try to do whatever we can do to ensure that we facilitate them. Just last week, we received maybe about 3 truckload of books from the Ministry of Education to boost our book rental system.
Strong support from the ministry.
Well, Spanish Town High School, and as I said, needs to be placed or earmarked as a national project. Yeah. I tell people if we fix Spanish Town High School, we fix maybe 65% of some of the challenges in Spanish Town itself.
Well, you know, you have our commitment, so we have committed to work with Spanish Town to make your school a model school for Jamaica. I transform other schools, and I'm certainly going to work with my CEO to ensure that Spanish Town High becomes an exemplar of excellence.
Thank you for that national commitment. Mr. Minister. But we really have those challenges, and we are moving away from them. And parents the minister even mentioned that parents could make a contribution, a parental contribution, and we did not include that in our structure because it was a challenge to collect the $2,000 for the auxiliary fees. So it would be a waste of time to print that on the paper for the parents because it will not be paid. So we have to rely on, in terms of sports, to pull what we can from Tuck Shop, which is already overburdened. But we are getting there. I'm in dialogue with the regional director, Ms. Sonia Eslop, to see how we can move forward in terms of setting up a computer lab at the school, and she's helping with us. She's helping with all of those requests.
Excellent. I want to come to Mrs. Headley-Smith. You're representing the parents here, the parents' voices. As I said, this policy seems to be in the interest of parents and so on. I mean, what is your take? How significant is this? What distress parents were in before this clear, unequivocal policy from the ministry? No child must be sent back. You know, a child must not be penalized at all. Exam results must be held up because the child has not been paid. The name must be blared on any microphone system or put anywhere. How important are these commitments?
Well, let me start by saying whenever there's change, there's going to always be some kind of resistance. And despite the commitment from the ministry, parents are still a little hesitant because there's a wait-and-see attitude. Yes, the promises have been made, and we're not going to say we don't have faith in the minister or the ministry, but at the same time, we just want to see it happen. It's almost like a miracle. Parents in general have been concerned because, like Mr. Brown, I'm from the Spanish Town area, and, you know, around the school community is quite depressed, right? Quite a few of the parents are hardworking, and I don't mean hardworking in an office, I mean on the road. They're hustlers, they're taxi drivers, they're household helpers, but regardless, their children are doing exceptionally well. If you've paid close attention to the Jonathan Grant High School, over the years you've produced very high CXE results, despite the constraint. The population is pretty much the same. School compound is very small. We have classrooms designed for maybe 18 or 20 students, but it holds 30 or 50 students. Regardless, the students are learning and doing very well. In terms of school fees, there's always been difficulty in paying the school fees. And we do know that even outside of Jonathan Grant, there are many schools where, yes, as you mentioned, the CXC results are held because school fees have not been paid. Just last week, I got called from a young lady who graduated from a Portmore High School, and she's concerned that her parents did not pay her last school fees, and she's unable to get her results. And she wants to know.
So that's a fact. People are saying that's not so, and nobody was penalized.
It is happening right across Jamaica. I know of many cases.
Yes.
And it's really regretful. But at the end of the day, I believe that this initiative by the ministry, by the government, is a way out for many parents. The truth is they cannot afford. Now, there's a flip side. I do not appreciate the freeness mentality, and I'm sure many parents do not as well. But guess what? They are the poor among us, and they have been overlooked for a very long time, and we need to give them an opportunity to advance themselves. So I look forward to it. I welcome it. I'm apprehensive myself, but I just want to see it work. I want to see the results. I want to also be assured, the minister said it, but I want to be assured that there'll be no compromise in the school system, the operational system of the school. That is critical to me.
Yes.
And I could go on and on.
All right. Everton.
The parents have been contributing to education from we became a part of the education system transformation program started some 10 years ago. That was one of the singular elements which involved that coming together, parenting and the involvement of parents in the educational process and in the lives of their child as it relates to education. We have been contributing, we have built schools, we have built classrooms, we have contributed to science blocks. So we are not opposing to any contribution, especially quality education and the maintenance of quality education. What is important is the involvement of parents in the decision-making process. And many schools, they have gone ahead and come up with some humongous fees without the engagement and the consultation with the parents. And one of the reasons why I find some resistance, there's a school that I won't call, which is on Reddy's Road. I have seen a book of voucher, $42,000, and it does not say what are the areas that you are paying for.
$42,000?
$42,000. And so therefore the individual came to me with significant amount of concern about that cost, especially when the ministry has just announced there are some charges that should not be paid for. And so I said to her, you let us go to the ministry because there's a complaint line that the ministry has established that you can make necessary those complaints. Parents are waiting and seeing. I would say after the first semester, then I'll be able to give a real response. But there are some are apprehensive, as you said, and some are very welcoming of the idea. Because any attempt made to reduce any expenses towards any matter is welcomed by parents. How you use whatever additional surplus you might have in terms of contributing in the same way to the quality of education in your school. And so therefore you'll find that in some schools, if you used to pay $5,000 last year, they would have come to some understanding to say, okay, PT, we are going to still pay that $5,000. So in addition to the support that the ministry will provide, you will get the same $5,000 from the parents because they are keen on quality education in terms of the school that their children or their child or their ward attend, and so some are. But we just want to engage the parents to ensure that whatever decision is made on the benefit on behalf and in consultation with parents. And I don't think parents are going to oppose.
And the more the parents are involved in the life of the school, the more they'll be able to know what is going on and what is really needed. And therefore, why they need to contribute.
That's why we applaud the initiative and the statement made by the minister that schools are now mandated to ensure that PTAs are established, and the minister sent out in a bulletin that schools are now mandated. Yes, because many that's a different story. Many schools and the administration, they are straight opposed to PTAs.
Can I tell you?
Opposed.
Yes.
Yes. So you welcome the ministers mandating it.
Yes.
Ministers.
Yes. You see, the challenge is, most schools feel like they're a bank. Schools need to get away from the fact that they're not a commercial bank. So we want to have accounts with $150 million saving up. Yet still we have the roof tearing down. Students are not having enough things for class. So I think that's the challenge, not pointing to any school in particular, because there are schools in Jamaica that could easily send a check to Spanish Town High School of $40 million and they didn't shake them to assist with construction of our classroom. So I think what the minister pointed out in terms of schools operating like a financial institution, that needs to be addressed. If the money is in the school to be spent for the development of the school and the betterment of the lives, educational lives of the students, that's the purpose. So I think we need to realize we're not a bank, we're an educational institution.
Rosemary, you want to come in?
Yes, I was just endorsing what Mr. Arnold said about the parents' involvement. At Jonathan Grant High, we have the PTA has management meeting with the principal and vice principals. We make decisions together. We're meeting with the principal. We threw it out at our PTA meetings. We had a unanimous decision at our last meeting in June when we met with the parent body that we were going to be making our contribution of $5,000 regardless of.
Excellent.
Mark you, the entire PTA body did not turn up. But we had roughly 600 members who agreed that we are going to make a contribution. Because at the time, we didn't get all the necessary information we would have wanted. That was still pretty early. But we wanted to make sure that there would be no compromise at all. And so we decided to make our contribution. It is critical that the parents be kept in the dialogue. It makes no sense that we sit in a corner, make our decision, and we present it to parents. We're the ones who are going to pay it. We're the ones who need that sense of assurance, and it's critical that we're involved.
But what I'd like to say again, encourage, because I'm going to put it out in the public in terms of areas of expenditure for schools. So yes, it's wonderful to hear we're collecting money, but again, I'm charging the parents to equally make sure your voice are heard in terms of how the money is going to be spent.
Yes.
Because if it is just manning cup and chams that we're going to spend the money on, is that really adding value? We've had some decline in math. What are the initiatives to improve the exam result? Because remember, in our initiative here, we are funding all the human resources required by the schools. So I would certainly like to know the additional resources that the schools are going to be collecting. What is it that they're going to be doing? Are they building some new computer labs? Are they bringing in some new computers and some teaching, learning resources? Are they improving their library facilities? So the
schools must be more accountable, Minister.
Yes.
But it's run in a democratic way.
Parents need to hold schools accountable.
Make your decision.
Thank you very much. That is that's what we're asking.
More accountability.
Going back to the PTA, not many PTA board understands the authority that they have. And so the principal comes to them and just makes suggestions, and they accept and they move on. One PTA president told me last year that he did not have access to the PTA funds. And I'm asking him, so how did the school get it?
That's a discussion that has to be entertained. Some schools have two accounts. One that the PTA funds go into, and the one that the government subvention go into. So that one is not regular check. So that is good when the minister requested financial statement and from the schools.
You back that?
Yeah, so fully. Make sure they also send you all accounts being held by the school. Because their accounts, they tell me the two accounts.
Comprehensive.
They send me the two accounts, and the money the PTA fees go into a separate account. And I say the school fee, no, it go into a different account. I say, okay.
CEO.
Well, just to say, sir, that the ministry is playing a supportive role. We are here to support those who are on the ground where the rubber hits the road. We are aware of the challenges. Some of the challenges we are not even about to imagine, but we would like to encourage our parents, encourage our principals and our teachers to make contact with our regional offices, say what the challenges are. Do not believe that you can just solve them on your own. We are here who can look at it from a global perspective and can garner resources or reallocate resources to make sure that the quality of education does not suffer, and importantly, the duty of care for each Jamaican child that is placed in our institution.
Minister, is it that you're pumping this $5 billion now into education making it unnecessary for schools to mandate fees because you're starving early childhood education? Is it that you really should be putting more into early childhood education because it doesn't make sense at the secondary level you're having all of these persons, students who are illiterate? You're rubbing from Peter to paper.
Not at all. In fact, you know, my approach has always been to be very strategic and try also to deal with all the issues simultaneously rather than, again, precisely what people are asking to deal with one against the other. Because, you know, I've said to the person similarly that the curriculum in the early childhood primary is different from secondary. So the preparation for GSAT is not the same preparation for CSEC, right? So therefore, if we want good CSEC results, we have to have resources that support all levels of the system. Now, in regards to what is before us in terms of early childhood.
Are you still supporting that strongly?
No, but we have articulated a 0 to 29 strategy. A zero, when we made it clear that our ministry is responsible for children, youth, and we have a 0 to 20 from the womb to 29. By the time they reach 29, they almost have a master's degree. Okay. And we are saying we're going to roll out September a comprehensive early stimulation program that captures all the pregnant women and the newborn, so we can work with them to make sure that the children are properly cared for from in the womb and the early years, postnatal, and they're going to the clinic and get their medication, and that they're intellectually and cognitively they're well stimulated and developed. Because brain development, 85% of brain development occurs between 0 and 3, not after 3. So even before we get them at 3.5, 4, we have to make sure that all that groundwork is being done. Now, as we are structured, there's an early child commission. We have put together a very, very strong early child commission membership, and they're doing an excellent work in terms of regulation, in terms of certification, in terms of attracting resources. There's a lot of private sector resources that are in fact going into early child, including what the diaspora is going to be.
So in short, you're not neglecting early child?
Absolutely not. As we speak, we are doing a rationalization, adding more basic and infant school to the government system. So the government itself is taking on far more responsibility for early childhood, and we are spending more. I'm spending 90% more on that sector. Next year, we're going to also increase by another 150% the funding for the early child and primary sector.
That's an important. So in fact, more money is being spent on early child education.
Absolutely. And I think we should be commended that you know, my team has worked very hard with me to look at the existing resources, reorganize our processes at the ministry to free up these kind of resources, so we've been able to pump back in the system that has taken care of both the early child level as well as the secondary level.
Thank you very much.
Including some tertiary institutions are also benefiting. And in fact, we're building 2 state-of-the-art early child facilities in this year's budget as well. One in West Bullen and one at Sam Sharp.
We need enough forum. This has been an enlightening forum, a special looking at education. A lot of the issues which have been in the public square have been answered fairly and squarely today. We've had with us the Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Senator Honorable Royal Reid, Chief Education Officer in the Ministry of Education, Dr. Grace McLean, President of the National Parent Teachers Association, Everton Anam, Principal of the Spanish Town High School, Mr. Bentley Brown, and immediate past PTA President and past board member of the Jonathan Grant High School, Mrs. Rosemary Headley Smith. We thank you for your company. I'm Ian Boyne. Until next time, wishing you a good day.